Hello Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. I am MM, and today I want to talk about something that should be talked about, and that is mountain kaiju, and the amount of them throughout history, in all of the Kaiju Dome, and everything in between. And the reason I want to talk about this is you've probably seen the video where both myself and Kaiju Canuck talk about the ongoing lawsuit with Methuselah in the Monsterverse and Summit Creations with their Baphomet character, which is literally just a living mountain monster. Now, if you're only into the Godzilla series, you probably don't realize that mountain monsters have been a thing for a long time, even predating like Godzilla and kaiju in general. If you go back through mythology, you have stuff like the world turtle, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a turtle that carries the world on its back, and a lot of times in artwork it's depicted as a mountain. You have Hawaiian gods that are literally personification of the volcanoes in Hawaii. Now, we never see them come alive and destroy stuff, but we do know for a fact that Hawaiian culture likes or believed that there were entities inside their mountains, which is the same exact origin that a lot of modern day mountain kaiju and monsters are based on. So just with that said, I want to just talk about some things here that are both from kaiju, from toku, and then also some closely related things. Now, two of those things actually come from video games. Games I am not I don't want to say fond of, I just don't play them. First is Final Fantasy, and it appears there is a giant turtle monster that's a lot like the world turtle that carries a mountain on its back that you eventually have to fight. This monster is called the Adamantoids. I might be mispronouncing that, and just by looking at a quick look at it, there appears to be different designs. I don't know if it appears in different games, but this is just another example of a mountain monster that's not even in Toku. Then we can go all the way to Pokemon, and we can talk about Torterra, the starter Pokemon, that is literally a turtle with a big bunch of trees and everything else on its back. Even in the Detective Pikachu movie, Torterra makes an appearance, and it's gigantic, and I'm talking like straight up kaiju size. And it's straight up Torterra. It has the mountain on its back, has trees, has everything that you would think a giant monster that is originating from a mountain would have. And with those two out of the way, now I can actually start talking about the stuff that I really actually do know about. And that is the mountain kaiju that are actually in the Kaiju Dome, starting all the way back in Ultra Q. Now, I'm not sure if this is the first, rock monster, but I do know that it is the first in the Ultra franchise. Now, this monster I'm talking about is Gorgos. Very forgettable monster. It's not very remembered. It's never come back since its original appearance. But it is literally just a meteorite that fell to Earth and is actually a monster. And it comes back to life. Then it gets blown up. The pieces come back together. And then you have a giant rock monster that's on the rampage. That's what Gorgos is. It's nothing too original. The design is literally just a giant rock with legs. And when you get down to it, a mountain pretty much is just a giant rock. Toku isn't going to make it look as good as artwork and CGI, of course. But if you would take the same design and then put it in the Monsterverse, it would probably look a lot like Methuselah as a redesign. So, after that, we can then go to Ultraman with Magular. And Magular is one of those monsters that were born from a recycled Baragon suit. It is very, very weak. It doesn't do much. It doesn't even fight Ultraman. It doesn't get killed by Red King in its debut episode. but instead gets taken out by the human characters, the Science Patrol. That was the only time we saw this monster, all the way up until Ultra Galaxy, which I believe is some 40-some years later. And then Magular makes an appearance, gets killed, and then makes another appearance in Ultra Galaxy Legend and gets one-shotted. So, not a very powerful monster, not very memorable. Far from my favorite of the Baragon kin, but another stone-based monster. Now, we don't know for sure if its body is made of rock, but the fact that its design appears to be based on it, it's very stony-bodied. Its back has almost peaks on it, despite the fact it being Baragon. Now, just like Gorgos, it's the same thing. Yeah, it doesn't look as much like a mountain as, say, Methuselah and Summit Kaiju do, but it's a guy in a suit. There's still the limitations here. And that was, I believe, the last of the mountain kaiju from the Showa era. I might be forgetting one or two. I mean, there's thousands of kaiju in Ultraman. It's not easy to remember them all. And that now brings us to the Heisei era, the 90s. And something that really comes to mind here with rocks and kaiju from this era is the Rock Eater. Such a wonderful original name, you won't believe what it does. It eats rocks. Now, this monster is based more or less on a T-Rex than it is on a quadrupedal animal like the rest of these mountain kaiju, and it works for it. Now, there are a lot of these in the episode. They vary in size, if I remember right, some are even as small as a human. But there is a giant one. It does get into a kaiju fight. It's nothing in particular. It's literally an enemy for the star monster of the episode, which I can't remember what its name is, King Baku or something like that. Moving on from that forgettable monster from Ultraman Neos, we're going to go into another 90s era show from Tsuburaya, Gridman the Hyper Agent, otherwise known in the US as the Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. When I decided to do this video, I was torn if I wanted to include volcanic monsters or not, because it's almost a whole subsection of this very topic. But I decided against it. But there is one, and that's Volcadon, that I want to bring up in this topic, mainly because of what happens later on. Now, Volcadon is just another one of them forgettable monsters. It's four-legged, it's almost turtle-like, has rocks and everything on its back, only this time instead of being regular mountains, it's based on volcanoes. So it has a bunch of fire attacks. But what makes this monster interesting is when the anime came out some couple years ago with SSS Gridman, SSS.Dynazenon or whatever. One of the monsters was brought back, or not brought back, but was created, and it's akin to Volcadon, but it's even bigger, and now it comes from a mountain. A straight up mountain monster that probably looks more like a mountain than anything else so far in this entire video. Now, before I get into the final two monsters I want to cover in this from the modern eras of Ultraman, I want to talk about a 2008 Sci-Fi Channel movie called Behemoth. And this movie, I know I brought it up before with the video with Canuck, this movie is about a giant monster that awakens in a mountain, and it's threatening to destroy the world unless it's stopped. Now, this is a cheap little Sci-Fi Channel movie, so no, you don't get any scenes of it, like attacking a city or anything. The monster itself, I don't know if it comes from the mountain, but it's described as being the mountain. Like, the whole mountain itself is a monster to the point where its breathing is causing CO2 to build up on the ground, and anything like lower than a foot will die. So, at least it has some interesting ideas, and it's a cool looking monster. And now this brings me to the final two, which are actually my two favorite rock/mountain monsters. The first being Gromite. which originates from Ultraman Mebius. Now, this is a very obviously rock monster. Its entire body is made of rocks. Its design appears to be based on a canceled kaiju from the Ultraman Nexus series. And this monster, it seemed like it was going to appear at least in a couple series, but it just never did. It makes a reappearance later near the end of its series where it's killed by Mephiles. It then appears in Ultra Galaxy, but then it doesn't do anything, and we have not seen the monster since. And then the last monster is Dorgos from Ultraman Blazar. This is the most recent mountain monster. It came out just last year. It is a giant monster that's a mountain, and it has pillars on its back. Eventually, the humans don't even realize this is a monster, and they actually attached weapons to it. And then when the monster revealed itself, well, now it's also having guns. So it's a mountain monster with guns. It has a really cool design, and I love how it has more grass on its body opposed to just barren rocks, which is something I kind of think is annoying when it comes to mountain monsters, because mountains generally have not rocks, but generally have trees. Methuselah has trees on its back. Summit Kaiju's doesn't. And I think that is a decent rundown of all the different mountainous, rocky kaiju out there. I do know I didn't include every single one. Just now coming to mind, there's Dorembia from the Ultraman Dyna series. I'll cover them sometime later. But if you can think of anything else, feel free to let me know. Drop a comment. Please like and subscribe. Begging you over here. I'm a growing channel. I can use all the support I could get. And, well, thanks again for stopping by the KWO. I am MM, and peace out.